Interpretation of 48 verses of Sura Al-Anfal. As-Saadi wrote, Satan embellished the bad deeds in the hearts of the polytheists and said, "Today, none of the people will be able to defeat you. You are numerous and well prepared for battle. Muhammad and his companions will not be able to resist you. I will be by your side and see to it that no one you fear fights against you." Iblis appeared to the Quraysh in the guise of Suraki Malik Jusham. He was a descendant of the Mudlij clan, which had long been at enmity with the Quraysh. They feared that the Mudlij clan would fight against them, and then Satan said to them, "I will be with you. Be calm and confident in your victory." When the Muslims and the unbelievers saw each other, Satan saw how Jibril was lining up the angels. He was very frightened, turned back and said to the deceived Quraysh, "I have nothing to do with you. I see angels that cannot be resisted. I am afraid that Allah will punish me soon in worldly life, because Allah is severe in punishment. It is possible that Satan deceived the Quraysh and instilled in them evil thoughts, that no one could overcome them, and that they had allies in the neighborhood until they reached the battlefield. And then he turned back and disowned them. On this occasion, the Almighty said, "They are like the devil, who says to a person, 'Do not believe,' when he becomes an unbeliever, he says, 'I have no part in you. I fear Allah, the Lord of the worlds.' The end of both will be falling into the fire, in which they will abide forever. Such is the recompense of the wicked." Interpretation of 61 verses of Surah Al-Anfal. They say that Sahl ibn Abu Hazma told from the words of one of the elders of his kind that Abdullah Sahl and Muhayis Masud went to Khaybr because of the difficulties. After some time, Muhayis Masud returned and reported that Abdullah Sahl had been killed and thrown into a well. When he came to the Jews, he said, "By Allah, you killed him." They replied, "By Allah, we did not kill him." Then Muhayis Masud, his brother Huwayisa and Abdar Rahman Sahl went to the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Muhayisa wanted to start first, but the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, "Let the elder speak first." He meant older. Then Huwayisa was the first to tell about what had happened, and then Muhayisa spoke. The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, "They will either have to pay a ransom for the murdered, or we will declare war on them." Then he sent a message to them, in response to which they wrote, "By Allah, we did not kill him." Then he turned to Muhayis and Abdar Rahman Sahl and said, "Are you ready to swear and declare your ransom claim?" They said, "No." He said, "Then let the Jews take an oath for you." They said, "But they are not Muslims." Then the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, himself paid them a ransom for the murdered Sahl. Abu Hazma said, "One of these she-camels, who was red, kicked me with her foot." This hadith was narrated by Ahmad al-Bukhari, Muslim. The text is given according to Muslim's version. Al-Saadi wrote, "If the unbelievers who fought against you want to sign a peace treaty and stop fighting, then agree to sign a peace treaty and trust in Allah. Indeed, the signing of peace can be of great benefit. First, Muslims are required to always strive for peace and prosperity, and if non-believers are the first to show a desire to make peace, then Muslims should support this initiative. Secondly, the cessation of hostilities will allow Muslims to gather their strength and prepare for another war, if necessary. Thirdly, after the signing of a peace treaty, The warring parties will no longer threaten each other and will be able to become better acquainted with the views professed by the opposite side. Islam always prevails over other religions, and no religion is able to overcome it. Therefore, every prudent sane person who impartially studies the Muslim faith will certainly give it preference over other religions, because the Muslim faith is distinguished by beautiful commands and wise prohibitions, teaches justice and a good attitude towards creatures. There is no place for injustice and oppression in Islam, and therefore the signing of a peace treaty helps to increase the number of people who want to convert to Islam and practice this religion. And this means that peaceful coexistence helps Muslims to prevail over unbelievers. And only one circumstance can cause fear of Muslims: unbelievers can conclude a peace treaty in order to outwit the Muslims and wait for the right moment to strike again at them. Therefore, Allah further informed the faithful that God's support is enough for them and that the tricks of the unbelievers will certainly turn against them. Interpretation of the 66th verse of Sura Al-Anfal. It is reported that Ibn Abbas said, when the verse, "If there are 20 of you who are patient, they will overcome 200, was sent down, Muslims were forbidden to run away from an enemy 10 times superior to them, and it seemed to them too burdensome. Then relief was sent down. Now Allah has lightened your burden, for He knows that you are weak. If there are 100 of you who are patient, they will overcome 200. This hadith was narrated by Al-Bukhari, Abu Dawud, Ibn Jarir and other. Interpretation of the 68th verse of Surah Al-Anfal. It is reported that Abu Hurairah said, on the day of the Battle of Badr, people hurried to seize the trophies, and then the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, verily, spoils of war were not allowed to anyone before you. When any of the prophets captured trophies along with his companions, they collected them, after which fire descended and devoured them. Therefore, Allah sent down the words, if there had not been a preliminary order from Allah, then great torment would have befallen you for what you took until the end of the next verse. This hadith was narrated by At-Tayalisi. It was also transmitted by Ahmad, At-Tirmizi, and Nasai, and At-Tirmidhi called him good and reliable. One of the differences between the Muslim Sharia and the legislation of the previous messengers of God is that Muslims are allowed to take spoils of war. Jabir Abdullah reported that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, I have been granted 5 things that no one has been awarded before. I win the victory thanks to the fear that instills in the hearts of my enemies at a distance of a month's journey. The whole earth has been made for me a place of worship, and all of it has been made pure for me, fit for purification, so that my followers may pray wherever they find it time to pray. I am allowed spoils of war, which was not allowed to any of the prophets before me. I have been granted the right to intercede, and, moreover, before each prophet was sent only to his people, and I was sent to all mankind. This hadith was narrated by Ahmad, Al-Bukhari, Muslim, At-Tirmizi and An-Nasai. Interpretation of the 75th verse of Surah Al-Anfal. It is reported that Ibn Abbas said, when the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, announced the companions as brothers, they began to inherit each other, and then the verse was sent down. However, relatives are closer to each other. After that, they stopped doing so and began to pass on the inheritance to blood relatives. This hadith was narrated by At-Tayalisi. It was also transmitted by At-Tabarani, Ibn Abu Hatim and others, and al-Haythami called his narrators the narrators of the hadiths included in As-Saadi.